You know that voice that takes a single mistake that you've made and turns it into evidence of everything that's wrong with you? I know you know that voice. I had an encounter with that voice earlier this week, a very recent encounter, and I'm going to share with you everything I learned from interacting with that voice, and that is the voice of fear. If you're thinking, this mistake, that mistake, something's wrong, everything's wrong, entering that negative mental loop, that negative spiral, it's just the voice of fear. It's the voice of shame. It leads to hopelessness and disillusionment if you listen to it for too long. But here's what's really important to know. And I didn't quite know this as a teenager. I didn't quite know this when I was growing up, and that's why I think it's so important to share so that everyone can know this now. That voice is not telling you the truth. It is not the voice of truth. It is not the voice of reason. It's simply repeating a pattern. That voice is just your fear, and it's your survival instinct, and it's trying to protect you. It's just trying to keep you alive. So in some ways we can say thank you to that voice. Thank you, my survival instinct. Thank you for caring so much that you want to keep me alive and that you want to keep me from making similar mistakes in the future. Therefore, I will learn and integrate these lessons. And I'm going to pivot now to speaking positively to myself again, because your words are instructions for your nervous system, and that's the topic of this post. I'm going to walk us through the neuroscience of self-talk and my 3 favorite practices to rewire your brain in real time. So when or if you encounter this voice of fear, this voice of shame, this negative spiral, this loop, here's how you can use neuroscience to get your brain back on track to supporting yourself and being positive and hopeful in your language, in your words, and therefore supporting and strengthening your body's resilience. So here's some of the science. Here's the neuroscience on how your words become your biology. I have citations in my Substack post, direct links. So if you're interested to check that out, I encourage you to check out stepintolovewithsophia.substack.com. It's my most recent post titled, Your Words Are Instructions for Your Nervous System. So I'll jump into the science now. First of all, your repeated thoughts become biochemical signals. So when you say, for example, I'm broken or something's wrong with me, your brain receives those words as instructions. And so stress hormones flood your system. Your immune function decreases because that's the signal that you're telling it with your words. You're telling your brain, like, I'm broken, there's something wrong. And so your brain receives those instructions and it gets stressed and it gets an immunorepression. The response is repressed. But when you say, I'm healing, or I'm learning, or I'm healing through this, something like that, you activate repair and restoration in your body instead. So your immune function increases to support you. Your beliefs support your body to be more resilient in that state when you're saying, I'm healing, I'm getting better. Secondly, your brain doesn't know the difference between a real limitation and a repeated belief. I love this one. I think it's so important. So if you tell yourself, I can't do this, your brain weakens those neural pathways. So saying, I can't do this, you are weakening the neural pathways, and your brain responds by lowering dopamine, which is the motivation chemical. So you lose motivation to do that thing, so you're less likely to learn it. And that closes the door. Basically, you say, I can't do this, I won't be good at this. You've closed the door before you even had a chance to start. Versus if you say, I'm learning this, your brain opens the pathways. It opens the mind for neuroplasticity. It opens, to possibility and opens to learning. So my third point here is that this is neuroplasticity at work. Your brain's ability to reorganize itself through repetition. That's how neuroplasticity works. You're creating these mental grooves in your mind by running these neurons, through thoughts, through certain patterns, through habits, and your beliefs become physical changes in your brains, because the more that you run these beliefs through your mind and thoughts, the more those grooves become easier. Like creating a trail, say a footpath in the woods. The first time it's kind of hard, there's some resistance. You might be creating the path all on your own. You're knocking down some branches, you've barely made a mark on the ground with your shoes, your boots. But if you walk that path every single day, eventually it becomes a well-worn path, and it becomes a simple habit and an easy path to go down. So that is how neuroplasticity works. So to bring it back to my example earlier this week, when I felt like I was swirling in my own emotional ocean, I was wrestling with this voice of fear temporarily. I was, again, in my own emotional ocean. I was just feeling a little bit directionless and a bit lost for like one day. I still knew that I had a choice, and I could either let the neuroplasticity work against me, deepening old pathways of shame and self-criticism and just take me down that old loop, or I could interrupt that pattern and redirect my self-talk, and that's what I chose to do. So now I'm sharing with you my top 3 practices for shifting self-talk and rewiring your mind for positivity. Number 1, this is so important, daily gratitude for perspective and balance. I love to talk about gratitude. I have a morning gratitude group chat. I have a daily gratitude practice that I'm happy to talk more about. Gratitude is one of the things that really enhances life. Daily life makes you so much more happy and just has wonderful health benefits. So here's some of the science behind it. Practicing gratitude activates the brain's medial prefrontal cortex, and it increases gray matter volume in the brain, strengthening neural pathways associated with positive emotions and making it easier to access feelings of happiness and well-being over time. Again, I have a citation. I'll include notes in this post as well, but it's in my Substack post. So I return my mind to gratitude as often as I can. This has now become an easy habit for me because I've been doing it for, I would say, 10 years. But gratitude is so important. So reminding yourself to return to gratitude. If you're ever feeling like worried or upset, I just kind of start by looking in my immediate environment, like, what can I be grateful for right now? What's right in front of me that I'm so grateful to have? The big things and the little things, literally all the things. For example, I think I was having a low moment getting out of the shower or something, or maybe washing my hands, and I start with, I'm so grateful for this hot water. I'm so grateful for clean water and soap. And then you just go on this nice little spiral of positive things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my work. I'm grateful for sunshine. I'm so grateful for the roof over my head. I am so grateful for my sweet husband who understands me, even in our deepest conversations. I'm so grateful that he understands me to the level that I've always craved. Like, I've craved to be listened to and understood on these levels. I am so grateful that I use my awareness now to observe these patterns. I am grateful that I notice and observe my self-talk now, even when it enters negative zones in the moments that it's happening. I'm grateful that I have awareness of this happening. This is the blessing that all this brain training has brought me. My mind is a safe space now, and I accept every part of my mind. So I'm so grateful that I no longer live with perceived enemies or evil thoughts in my mind, because I know when these thoughts are coming through that it's signals and lessons for me. It's just something to process. I'm so grateful that my body can process unwanted emotions in a healthy manner. I'm grateful that I listen to my feelings and I process my emotions through my body in a healthy way. So I hope those are some very helpful examples of going on this kind of gratitude chain that I love. And speaking of processing emotions in a healthy way, that leads me very nicely into my second favorite technique for rewiring towards positive self-talk. In this post, my number 2 favorite technique is emotional freedom technique for emotional processing. So, emotional freedom technique, aka EFT, aka tapping, is an incredibly effective healing technique that I teach, and I practice it every day, every night. I love it so much. And I definitely used it a little bit extra when I needed it on this difficult day when I was wrestling with the voice of fear. I did extra 15 or 20 minutes of EFT tapping, and I loved it. And I want to share with you one very powerful and consistent refrain in my daily EFT ritual. I pretty much always say, I release now, with gratitude, anything that no longer serves my highest purpose today. And that's a refrain that I love. And I have some other videos here of me doing EFT tapping demos, and that's something that I teach in my coaching practice. So number 3 of my favorite techniques for rewiring the mind towards positive self-talk in this post is number 3, positive self-talk with yourself and positive self-talk in relationships. So the way we speak to ourselves shapes how we show up in our relationships. I have a sweet little story here. So when my husband got home from work, he could tell I still had a bit of sadness on my face, and he said, "Are you okay, my love?" And I said, "Yes, I just feel a little hopeless today, and that's not my normal. I know that's not my normal. I know I will feel better tomorrow after a good night of sleep." And he said, "I'm sorry, May Engel, I understand. Some of the hardest days I'd had in the guard were the days that I felt hopeless." "Oh, you felt hopeless a few times?" "Yeah, when I had to change positions and I felt like I didn't know anything and I knew that I would have to learn all this new material. That was a bit hopeless at the start." And I responded, "I understand, but then you learned and it worked out, yes?" And he said, "Yeah, it changes, it got better." And I respond, "That's what I keep telling myself. I know that this feeling is fleeting, but it did feel hard today because I felt directionless." And that was the truth. I did feel directionless for a day. I did not know my best next step today, and usually I have a few ideas of what to do, but I know that I'll feel much better tomorrow. So this is what positive self-talk in relationships looks like, and that's why I wanted to share this dynamic, this demonstration of positive self-talk. I believed that the uncertainty was temporary, and I focused on feeling better the following day. And my husband also normalized my experience. Instead of trying to fix me, he understood me, he related, and he agreed that things will get better. He was being supportive in that way. And we both chose language that supports healing. So I'm so thankful that I have wonderful people in my life who lend support when needed. My mother was available for my calls like 4 times that day when I just wanted to talk it out a bit more. And these strong supportive relationships are one of the most powerful factors for our happiness and health in the long term. These relationships help us regulate our nervous systems and remind us that we're not alone in our growth. So a reminder here that your relationship with yourself and how you talk to yourself also sets up your relationships with others and how you talk to others, because others see how you talk about yourself and they receive that, and it informs your reputation, your general vibe, and then also how you talk to others, it impacts them. So be aware of how your talk and your words that you use affects yourself, and also how it affects your relationships. That's really important. It's also something that I teach, and I'm definitely focusing on in the events that I'm hosting in February. More info I'll share at the end of this post. A final note, kind of a sweet part of this story, is that, like I said, my sweet mother chatted with me a lot, helped me through things, and then my mother-in-law also checked in on me and shared this beautiful metaphor that she'd heard from Hoda Kotb, and I really liked how Jarita paraphrased it. She said, "It's like you're a plant that has outgrown the planter you are in, so when you move to a bigger pot, there's a moment when your roots are hanging out and you're swinging about in the wind and you feel ungrounded, but then you're planted into a bigger pot with rich, deep soil, and you have more room to thrive." And I loved that. And here's Hoda's words exactly from her interview with People magazine in August 2024. I found this. So Hoda said, "It's like my roots need a bigger pot. You know when you take a plant out of a pot and its roots are all twisted and tight, and then you put it in a bigger pot with fresh new soil and it just grows bigger and stronger. That's the journey I'm on right now. And it's going to hurt a little to leave that pot that was so comfortable for so long, but in the end, it's going to be exactly what we need." And that resonates with me so much excuse me, that resonates with me so much this week. Like, I'm getting excited, like, with how much it resonates with me. I think it's kind of wild. Yes, that is how I feel. Yes, exactly. Like, yes, I experienced some growing pains this week, and that's completely natural. Yes, I'm also building my ecosystem. I'm building a larger ecosystem for me to thrive in, and there's going to be growing pains with that. And yes, I am now ready for my next level. So, even with my little mistakes, jumping over my words here, I'm sharing this with y'all because I know that I personally love authenticity and vulnerability and hearing real people talk, not like AI this, AI that. This is really me sharing my heart with y'all. And this is really a lot of what I have learned this week. Like, I love this metaphor that Hoda Kotb shared, and also the lessons that I have integrated over years that continue to support me when or if difficult, emotional moments come up. So I'm really happy to share this. And I've also shared my focus word for 2026 is growth. So I love that this metaphor of being planted into a bigger pot or a larger ecosystem. And now I have the space to grow and expand in that. So my word for this year is growth. I'd love to hear what yours is, or any other thoughts, comments that you have about this topic. But yeah, if you'd love to just share your word of the year in the comments, I'd love to hear that. Send you some love for that. And a final reminder that you do not have to wait to start rewiring your brain. You don't need to have every little thing figured out. You just need to be willing to speak positively to yourself and start that process using these practices I've shared today. So one thought at a time, one word at a time, you can always be improving and refining how you talk to yourself. One promise at a time. And let's promise positive self-talk in 2026, starting now in January. Let's do this together. I have a few invitations here to Step Into Love events I'm hosting this winter. So the first one is this Saturday, January 24th. I'm doing a Promise Positive Self-Talk deep dive on rewiring your inner dialogue. In this 60-minute deep dive, you will learn how to interrupt negative spirals in real time using nervous system regulation tools. Secondly, you will create new neural pathways for self-compassion. And third, align your self-talk with who you're becoming, not who fear says that you are. So I've included a link here. You can register for free. There's also a VIP option add-on where I will guide you through a 30-minute self-talk breakthrough call. And that's valued at $26. So if you're interested in that, grab your spot. I have a few spots available. I'd love to meet with you for your self-talk breakthrough call. My second event, I'm really also so excited about. This is on Sunday, February 8th. I'm hosting a love and life audit. So in this 60-minute session, we're going to get clear on where your relationships are and where you're going. So we're auditing your current state of your relationships because, like I've said in this post, relationships are so important and so valuable. And this session will guide you to assess what's working in your relationships versus what's ready to shift, like maybe some shifts you want to make in 2026 to improve the state of your relationships. Secondly, we'll identify your relationship patterns and why you keep attracting them. And again, if you want to make any changes, I can show you how to change those patterns and set yourself up for new patterns that support your goals. And third, we will create a clear vision for calling in the healthy, aligned love that feels like coming home for you, whether that's romantic love, partnership, or more relationships, and just in general more love in your life. So you can again register for free for both of these events. I have included links in the description and on my Substack post. And also for the Love and Life audit, I have a VIP option upgrade. So this is a 30-minute love and relationships breakthrough call with me, where we'll dive deeper into your relationship patterns and create a plan for calling in the love that you deserve. So thank you so much for listening to this post. I hope this was incredibly valuable for you and helps you to reflect on, how you respond when you encounter the voice of fear or concern or worry. I encourage you to share this post, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. I so love seeing likes and comments and hearts. I use this little resonant heart everywhere. So thank you so much for sharing and engaging and being a part of this lovely, supportive community. I send you peace, I send you love, I send you clarity on your next steps. Take care.